All right. Well, I want to welcome everybody to the June meeting of the Division 5 of the LMRA in the Lone Star region. We have Tony Privitt today presenting a clinic on the Harvey House in Slaton. And this should be a great clinic. So we had the May convention in May, and back in May, we had the convention in Temple. Joe Lysing, do you want to give any reports or updates from that, just for everybody that is here?
Well, overall, including the day passes, we had 153 people in attendance. A lot of great clinics and clinicians. They did a nice little thing of thinking outside of the box, had a huge area for gathering, had a little mixer at the end of each day of clinics so that everybody could relax and share their thoughts on the various events. Couple cameras in the social area for live rail fanning right there in Temple, as well as in other locations across the world, the country. And all in all, everybody seemed to really enjoy themselves. And of course, we're all looking forward to going to another fantastic town in 2024.
Yeah. So we're still working on that, and Joe and I've been emailing for working on finding a good venue for this, and also making it affordable for everybody. So hopefully by the next we should by the next mid-year board meeting. I guess that'd probably be in January. We should have that all wrapped up, present to the board to vote on that. So to make it official. So Don Wynn, he was on here, but I guess he had to go. But he stopped in town on Saturday. Oh, you here?
Yeah, my computer died. My computer gives me 2.5 seconds. It says, "Hey Don, plug in your computer before."
Well, I see you made it to Philmont. Okay, so
I did.
Yeah. He stopped through San Angelo on Saturday morning, and I got to go take him to the depot, and we got to see that, and then showed him around San Angelo a little bit. So that was fun. We talked about the convention a little bit too. So anyway, stay tuned and be watching the email updates for things coming to that. And then as we get closer to it, we'll need volunteers for different aspects of that. So if you're interested in volunteering, please hit me up, and I'll let y'all know once we get more planned on it as well. So, I don't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, Brooks. With that said, anybody who's working towards their MMR and needs to get credits towards their volunteer AP, working a regional convention as a volunteer will earn you credits twice as fast as on a divisional level. And if you signed up today, you'd actually start earning those credits as of today. So by the time convention comes around, boom, you'd probably be done with that part of your AP certificate. So food for thought as people are thinking about helping out for your convention.
Well, and then not only the local one, but we do also have the national convention in 23. And we'll be, since I'm not really in charge of that and only in charge of one department, I'm sure we'll probably be seeking volunteers to man registration desks and things like that as time gets closer. So be on the lookout, and I'll be posting out that as well. So and that's a great way to serve and get volunteer points. And it's everyone, not very often that a national convention comes through our region too. So it's pretty cool to be a part of something like that. So
no, if I may, it's been over 25 years since we've had a national convention in Texas, and that was down in Houston. This will be the first time that it's going to be in North Texas ever, which is going to make it a little bit easier access for people throughout the region. Which is really nice. And insofar as volunteers, yes, they are looking for people. And please keep in mind that for their volunteers, they're not looking for somebody for the entire convention. If you want to contribute a couple hours of your day, half a day, it's all up to the individual insofar as what they want to do. So if anybody's interested in helping in that effort, there's an email for volunteer@2023texasexpress.com that they can reach out to Chris Mahan and simply let him know what you want to do, when you'd like to do it. There's lots of options. You could have something as simple as sitting outside the bus and making sure that everybody has their ticket to get on the bus, and you're done.
Yep.
Really hard stuff.
All right. Well, and then also remind y'all this year's 2022 convention's coming up in St. Louis. So, get registered for that too, if you're looking to go. And so I think that'll do it with conventions. I see BJ's joined us. I'd like BJ, if you don't mind, do you want to give us an update on the Lubbock Model Railroad Association, what y'all are doing?
Yeah. We kind of restarted the club back in about December. Changed leadership. President, Vice President. Really good.
BJ, I'm having a little hard time hearing you there. You might be a little far away from your microphone.
Let me go turn my
I'm getting like every.
off too.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm getting like every other word. Yeah.
You scared him away, Brooks.
No, while he's gone, I get they have a newsletter that they're putting out, and
so hopefully, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Okay.
I was going to tell everybody while you're gone that y'all are putting out a newsletter, and I get that, so it's really cool to see what y'all are up to and things.
We're growing. We've had about 20 members now that are paid up, and that compares to about 8 or 10 last year. We've gotten a lot of the older club members who had kind of fallen by the wayside. They're coming back now. We had a show in March over spring break at one of the libraries. And we plan to have another show. Hopefully, if we can get with Tony, we'll have a show this fall or this summer at the Slaton Harvey House. And we'll be on display at the American Windmill Museum the week of Thanksgiving. And I'm reaching out to the clubs in the area, especially the Clovis, New Mexico club, to see if they can come. We have available to us at the Windmill Museum probably 25,000 square feet or so, and awesome. two different rooms. So we have a huge opportunity there to display for about a week. So
cool.
Things going good up here for a change.
Yeah. Well, keep us in the loop with it, and keep send me emails or something ahead of time, and I'll make sure to send that information out to the other members in the division too.
Okay.
Hopefully they'll come up and maybe participate as well. So I hope to make it up to one of your meetings someday on there. So it is on my bucket list to do. just gotta work it out. So cool. Yeah. Well, I think that'll do it for that. And then next, before we get into the clinic, I had some pictures that John Emerson sent me, and I want to share those. And if anybody else has some things to share, get that ready. So we'll move into our share time. And let me share these pictures, and then John can talk about them here. So y'all should see that picture of the track now.
Yeah.
And John, if you want to talk about it, now I'll switch the image when you just tell me when you want to switch the other one here. I think your mic is muted, John. I see the little red microphone. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Go back to the first, because it's down to just two images right in the middle of the screen.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I have. Right? Is it the? You should see.
Yeah, but it was on the screen before.
Oh. Okay. I'm sorry. I guess because I moved it over to this screen. No, now you might see it.
Okay, so
That's weird.
I model in G gauge, and I needed a diamond, so I constructed this diamond, and it's 45 millimeter gauge between the track, and then there's a switch up above, and if you go to the next one, you can sort of see how the layout looks. So I got this far at the end of April, and other things stopped me from finishing the rest of it. You can see the track sort of ends there, and I've got about 900 feet of hand laid track and hand laid switches. I got about somewhere between 45 and 50 switches, and you can see the ground throws. I'm using O gauge ground throws for everything. And my layout is 51 inches above the floor. I have something called a basement in Texas that I'd had basements before in my life, but not in Texas. And so I've completed the main line, and I'm now working on just some sort of the extraneous track. And I was hoping to be finished by Christmas, but right after the convention, I needed to come up here to New Mexico because of the forest fires. I don't know if you've heard about the forest fires, but there's a forest fire about 21 miles from the house. And so we actually evacuated a whole lot of the stuff from the house just because of that. And so I'm up here for the summer. I didn't get to finish this set of turnouts, but I have run a lot of trains over it, and I'm having a good time because my switches work a whole lot better than the commercial switches in G gauge.
Cool. What all these the rail, like the frogs and stuff, are those parts that you use precasted?
No, I cut them out of plexiglass.
Oh, okay, cool.
Those are
cool.
plexiglass that I had some plexiglass, and some black plexiglass, and I grooved it and put them in place. And I haven't wired the thing up yet, but it seems that the cars pass through it pretty well. Now the switch above, the working switch, and it works just fine.
Cool.
And the frog in the one above, a friend of mine made frogs for me 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm finally starting to run out of them, but they work great. So they aren't live. It's a cast frog. It's plastic.
Cool. Well, it looks great.
Yeah, you got to come back up. We can run some trains.
Definitely.
And Mr. Roth, you may come over anytime. You don't live that far away, you know.
Hey, Brooks.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen with you real quick? I have a photo to show you of a G-scale bridge that is being constructed for one of my club members.
Yeah. Is it, will it allow you to share right now, or do I need to switch it?
Let me try real quick. No, it says you've disabled.
Okay. All right. I think it does that to start with, and you have to enable it. So it should be able to allow you to do it now.
Okay. Now I can.
Yeah.
This is one of our G-scale members is having a bridge. Actually, he's having 2 or 3 bridges built out in Arizona. And this is G-scale, built out of steel. And it's going to be between 5 and 6 foot long. And he is just super excited about it.
Yeah.
He doesn't know exactly when he's going to get it, but yeah, he's really looking forward to it. I thought I'd share that with you, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, did he have to mortgage the house for that bridge?
He won't tell me how much it cost. But,
The the new guy for split jaw wants about somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 for a bridge like that.
Well, I think this one's going to cost him more, based on what he says, because it's all solid steel construction, welded, and they'll be finishing it up for him.
Wow.
So anyhow, I'll share more pictures if I get more.
Is that going outside? On
No,
an outside
he does not have a layout actually.
Oh.
He has a couple of trains that run at the windmill museum. You know, he's probably got 30 or 40 locomotives and probably 150 rolling stock, but he doesn't have a layout. So he shows them off whenever he can.
So has he got DCC?
No, they're all of his locomotives are battery powered.
Battery powered?
Yeah.
Well, if they're independent of the track, you should tell them to come up and see me. We'll run them on the train.
Okay.
We're on layout. I mean, because it's 200. I got a 250-foot loop.
Okay. I invited him to the meeting tonight, but I guess he didn't have time, wasn't able to join us.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll try and get him on here some night.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
What's his name?
Oh, Clyde Shannon.
Shannon?
Clyde Shannon.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Right. Tell him about me. I got a page in the NMRA Model Railroad Directory.
Okay. I'll let him know. I don't know if he's a member of NMRA or not. I don't think so.
Well, you can probably share something to show him what it is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's it.
All right, cool. Thank you, BJ. Anybody else got anything to share? All righty. Well, I've got some. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Somebody might. I'm checking with them now. He's reading my message to him.
No, I just was going to say in the meantime, I went to the Sante Fe convention and got to see the 5704 recently restored. It's fixing to come down the Transcon and going to the Southern California Railway Museum.
Wow, that looks really neat. Cool.
They restored it cosmetically to how it appeared. It was about to be scrapped, and they have cosmetically restored it to its 1975, 1976 appearance in the bicentennial scheme. And the folks at the Southern California Railway Museum will mechanically do the mechanical part of the restoration to get it running.
Nice. Cool.
But,
what's the
it's beautiful. It's an SD45-2.
Oh, I couldn't tell from the photo that quick.
I understand.
Well, keep us surprised if you hear anything else about it. Let us know. So.
Well, they said it was on display during the Sante Fe convention at Kansas City Union Station because it was restored. The restoration work was done at Mid-America Rail Car. And they said it was going to be on display through yesterday, and they were hoping to put it on a hot train going west. They don't want to sit around too long.
Right. Cool.
So I haven't heard anything today, but.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing with us. That was neat. Joe, did you say you had somebody sharing something, or Joe Lassie or Cole?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cole.
I guess he wants me to show some of the stuff that I had at the LSR convention. Let's see. Let me grab the bridge.
I'd like to make a footnote here that in this year's convention contest room at the convention, Cole won Novice Modeler of the Year and had some really nice entries in there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
here's the things that I won with. Let's see. For steam locomotive, it's a MDC Shay that's got a Tsunami sound decoder in it with a little sugar cube speaker. Everything's been completely changed. 3D printed cab, 3D printed trucks. It's Wiseman whistles, bells, bunch of other detail parts. So that one locomotives and the Novice Best of Show. And then for the bridge, I've got started off as a Campbell's kit. It has, I think, 500 something NBWs on it. Every tie has an MBW, and there's 101 ties. Not to mention that every third tie has a tie plate and spikes from Proto 87. So
very nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Did Dwayne issue you a straitjacket after that, or?
He's got like 3 of them on order for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know. He always jokes about that. He tells me about some models. He's like, you could see every little nut and bolt on that deal.
Yeah, it's between Dwayne and Mike. They both have straitjackets for me with my name embroidered even.
That's cool. No, that's great work.
I'm a taxidermist by trade, and Mike wanted some ducks painted for his layout. I hand painted wood ducks, mallards, widgeons, as well as HO scalp bass and everything. So
that's the way to go. That's why we do it.
Yeah, they look really nice.
Cool. Well, we're getting close to needing to start the presentation. And before I do, I've got a little bit for me to share here. So I'll be quick with it. First, I need to turn my background off so y'all can see it. So I got to go to my settings and do this. Okay. So y'all should see here. So I'm working on this diorama that's sitting on that board behind me for, I don't know, the better part of 6 months. And it's like probably 6 months behind schedule. But anyway, so I think the last time I shared this was probably 3 or 4 months ago. And so there's a little food stand on there. That's my first craftsman structure I built. And I've scratch built this guy to sit on top of it. And this is also paying homage to Lionel Strang. And so I put the little Woodland Scenics Just Plug lights up here to light it up. And I did this. I could 3D print and do it easily, but I just was doing this just to be quick about it. And so in the back, I'm trying to, it's got this 40 gauge magnet wire, if you can see it coming off of there. And so right now I'm working on the one thing I've got left. I took some little 20, I think these are 18 or 22 gauge Lauer lock needles that you can put on syringes. And so I cut the plastic lock off and used those. And that actually worked out great to feed the wire through to simulate conduit. And I ordered a longer one on Amazon that's like 18 gauge, a little bit bigger. So I'm going to run that down here to feed these wires through, and then that'll go through the roof. So that's what I've got left to do on this guy. But I'll start like 3 or 4 projects and kind of work on them at the same time. But lately I've been working on I've got a bunch of line. This is all O scale, 148. And so I bought a bunch of Lionel houses, pre-done ones. So this garage was actually the garage off of this brown building that's sitting right there behind me. And right in the middle, there's the feature house that is part of this commercial. And part of what they wanted to do was make it upgradable. So I started making this roof that I could interchange on it. So I put magnets. There's magnets embedded. You might be able to see them down in there. They're a little shiny, but I've put some little rare earth magnets in there under these shingles, laser cut shingles. And then this thing has some metal plates, just sheet metal on it, and it's just all chipboard glued together with CA glue. And so this thing's supposed to just go on top, and the magnets hold it all down when it's attached. Scratch built this little forgot what you call it, a dormer on there, and then in the inside there's a woodland scenic just plug light, and this blue wire that's right here. I took some I think they're 0402 LEDs that I've bought for ditch lights, and right here there's little LEDs right here just to kind of do some like soffit lighting down there. And I saw these pictures on Pinterest and Instagram and stuff about lighting. So I thought, well, they'll turn these lights on, and it'll kind of light the house up more, just to kind of make it look better, more upgraded. And so I started doing that. The lights kind of, I'll open if I can find my photos, I can share you a picture of the lights when they're running. So I'll share. I need to open. Yeah, there we go. It's bigger. So share. Yep. So here's the picture of the house with the lights on there, and so I was really wanting them to flood. Of course, it's kind of hard to see with my bench light on. I was really wanting it to flood the whole thing, but actually I saw some pictures prototypical that is actually pretty spotty. So I think it'll work out all right. And, this will give them an option to be able to do dusk to dawn kind of scenes in it. The brick here I've repainted with, this is all craft paint that I've airbrushed. The wood stuff, the wood siding, I brush painted that. But the doors and the trim, that's actually Tamiya NATO black that I use to paint that. So it's like black, but it's like almost black. It's actually got a hint of green in it. And I thought that would be kind of a neat offset. And I'd like to add some like little lights here on the sides. And I'm debating either make it, if they're trying to 3D print them or buy them from Woodland Scenics or just not even doing that. So I've got, I've been doing that, and let me stop this so I can show you the rest of it. So when I put this, shingled this roof, and and then I thought, at first I was going to build 2 interchangeable roofs, put on top. I could cut a hole in it for the lights, and then I thought, no, I'll just shingle this, and they'll just stick this on top. Well, when I did that, I really wanted to put lights in here, so then I have the problem with this wire hanging down. Well, how am I going to hide that? And I thought I could run it off the back and they could just plug it in under the board. But I was like, well, that's not that slick. What if they actually do a shot, like a drone shot over the back of it? So then I thought I'll just stick a hole in the top of the roof to run that wire down. And then I was thinking about 3D printing like a little air vent or attic vent or something to put on there. But it turns out to fit these JST connectors in there, I was going to have a pretty big wire hole. So then I wound up scratch building this little dormer here, and I wound up finding evergreen styrene tubing that actually fits inside each other. So this guy, it's not lit, but it'll just slide right there on top of that, and it hides the house. So they'll upgrade from the little dormer. That just comes off, and then the big dormer goes on. So, it's like they had a little room up there, but wanted a bigger window. So that's taken me probably about 2 months to do, build and do all that off and on. So I think I finally got that done. And now I'm starting to, this roof had molded plastic shingles. And so me being the, picky modeler that I'm actually trying to do laser cut shingles on this. So these are all laser cut big sheets from Best Trains, and I actually got these in like brown, but I didn't like the color, so I got the Krylon it's like a textured paint that you can use, and I just sprayed the whole sheet with it, and it actually kind of, with the texture, it's like kind of a sandy texture, so it sort of gives like a asphalt look. And once I get it all weathered, or once I get it all shingled, I'll put the whole thing together and then weather it with powder, so that way I have a uniform look. And I also took aluminum foil here and bent it in a photo etch bender, which I have a picture of that as well. See if I find that. This thing I found from MIG Ammo. It's like kind of the box had a picture of a Ferrari engine on it. So I would say it's probably the Ferrari of photo etch benders here, but I also do scale modeling. So here's if you see my pointer here, the little piece of foil. It's just tin foil that I flattened out, stuck in there, bent it in there with that, and it actually. And then I did spray adhesive, except for it's coming off just a little bit. Once I get the shingles down, it'll stick well. So, but that's where I'm at on this guy. So I just wanted to share all that with you there. So,
Brooks, can I share one more thing real quick?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
We have a modeler here in town, and he's not a model railroader. His lifelong hobby has been to scratch build tall ships, sailing vessels from scratch. And he has he's so good that museums commission him to build ship models. His most recent one was a 6-foot model of the Titanic for some museum back east. But his grandson got involved in model railroading a few years ago. And so this got Griff interested in model railroading. So he doesn't do anything halfway. So he bought every kit that Magnuson Models has, and he built them all in diorama form. And he has them on display in his home. But he saved all of the boxes with all of the plans and all of the templates and everything. So Fine Scale Miniatures, that's the company.
Yeah, okay.
And so anyhow, I have all those plans and the cutting templates and all that stuff. If any of you are interested in scratch building a Fine Scales miniature building, let me know and I will scan the instruction sheets and books and plans and cutting diagrams and all that stuff and send those to you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, these are just, the world-class kits.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to, just send BJ a DM there, or you can email me. I'll get you. I can share BJ's info if you don't mind, BJ, with them.
Oh, that'd be fine.
And we can do that. So yeah, cool. Well, I think if we come to the point where we'll begin Tony's presentation here. So I want to introduce Tony here. So Tony Privitt's a Slaton native, or native to Slaton, Texas, and retired communications and advocacy professional. For the past 30 years, he has volunteered to lead fundraising efforts to restore and operate the Slaton Harvey House, a historic 1912 diner on the Sante Fe line in his hometown. Today, the Harvey House operates as the Fred Harvey and Sante Fe Museum, bed and breakfast inn, and event center. So with that, I want to turn it over to Tony to tell us about the Harvey House.
Thank you, Brooks. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Great. And I want to also recognize BJ and thank him and the Lubbock Model Railroad Club. We hosted their meeting a month or so ago, and definitely looking forward to a fall weekend display of you guys at the Harvey House. So I'll pull this up. I appreciate you guys giving me a little time to talk about the Harvey House. I developed this presentation. I've been doing it to national groups And so I'm going to skim through some of the things that you guys don't need to see that you all know about. In fact, you're going to probably know almost everything. I have to, for folks who don't know Texas, I have to locate Slaton there. And then I start talking about, before I talk about the railroad, I talk about what preceded us, and that, and as you know, Coronado's expeditions were not the first humans in the area, but the first from a developed and exploratory nature. And they got pretty close to Slaton, coming up through New Mexico, and as you can see, up into the South Plains and Panhandle on up to Kansas. And then I showed them the topography of the region, where you can see the tabletop type, where we are on the, we call the Cap Rock, where Lubbock and Amarillo is. And so I used that to launch into the barriers to settlement in the railroads in West Texas. And this is an 1853 map. So this is, pre-Civil War. We've still got to go through that, but it basically shows where Texas was in settlement and development, and how we were in our area, largely not settled. And I always point out here that you see a lot of what look like rivers there, but they were occasional rivers. They were not constant rivers for the most part, that flowed year round. And so the lack of water was a huge barrier to development. Another barrier, of course, was the terrain. In addition to the lack of water, it was not easy to get covered wagons and mules and other things that you needed to try to settle up onto the Cap Rock. And then I show them this map to first off outline the Llano Estacado, which is pretty much where the tabletop is, to reiterate that, not only were the little small rivers that were sometimes flowing in West Texas, but all the real moisture and rainfall and good rivers and lakes were down in this part of Texas, which corresponds to, where the settlement was, of course. Finally, the biggest barrier to development in our region was the Comanche Indian. They were fierce warriors, fought with other Indian tribes, and protected their territory with a great deal of ferocity. But then there were several game changers that slowly and then ultimately, pulled together at one time, sort of converged at one point in time to help with development. In 1850, about the same time as that map, the telegraphs had moved across, and notice they're on the southern territory of the Comanche. They could not get, initially had to start down where they were, not so easily attacked, and burn the poles and cut the wires. But they were also supported by a string of federal forts. So that makes sense why they started down there. And you can see where the stagecoach route was, the Butterfield stage route, and that gold line here. And then that string of forts that allowed settlers and the stagecoach and railroads to move. Another one of the game changers were the cattle trail drives, and of course they were moving to where the railheads were, as you all know. The purple one over here to the south and up to New Mexico was the Goodnight Loving Trail, which was fictionalized in the Lonesome Dove book and series. The Potter Bacon Trail, this blue trail up through the South Plains of the Panhandle, didn't actually occur until after the Comanches had finally been driven out and surrendered. But all of these were increasing all of these trails were increasing the settlement and the spreading of trade and encroachment onto the Native American territories and pushing and driving them up, and shrinking their numbers so that settlements and railroads and other commerce could occur. A huge game changer, of course, was the Homestead Act in 1862, which basically gave anyone who would move into this area, they would give them 160 acres. All they had to do was to go claim those acreage, live on it, and improve it for 5 years, either as farmland or ranch land, or to build a town or whatever. But it was a major land rush in our and around Slaton, many family farms that were a result of the homesteaders coming out and claiming their land and farming it. So this put a lot more people here, which helped bring commerce, to encourage the railroads to follow, and it helped settle our area. Finally, the biggest was the development of the windmill, which allowed for farms and ranches to survive and for railroads to survive. Even if there wasn't a town, the Sante Fe or other railroads could just punch a hole in the ground where the great Ogallala Aquifer had very rich water supplies just beneath the surface. So one of the final piece of the puzzle and the game changer to allow development. And there's a cool map to show the Ogallala. So in 1900, this is what the ATSF Railroad looked like. They had gotten to San Angelo, and they had reached to our north where Amarillo would come. It was called Panhandle back then, was the end of their line. And that was in 1900. But all of these things had now cleared the way for them to connect that line from Galveston to Clovis and to Amarillo, so that they could complete that piece to the southwest of their lines, which stretched then from Chicago to San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and then across Texas. This is a map I imagine each of you have seen, which was pretty much the fully developed line in the South Plains as it went forward from Brownwood, connecting through Slaton, Lubbock, and onto Clovis, and then northward to Canyon and Amarillo. And as I'm sure you all know, Slaton was a division point for the Sante Fe. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Harvey Houses in a minute, but they located Harvey Houses every 100 miles on their line, and it was a very innovative project by Fred Harvey that encouraged rail travel, because as you were traveling through the Southwest, you were, in many cases, like in Slaton, you were traveling through a place where a town didn't exist until the Sante Fe came through. And in some places, maybe there were small towns that it went through, but they did not have restaurants that opened, were there to serve food 24 hours a day. And passengers who were embarking on, long trips on the Santa Fe or any other railroad had to carry as much food as they could because they never knew, especially at night, if they would be able to get food where the train stopped to refuel and add water. But Slaton was a division point, which was a huge jobs creator, about 200 jobs, in 1911, which was a big deal. And Slaton didn't exist. The Santa Fe bought the land and created their division point there. Lubbock did exist. Lubbock had been consolidated from two smaller cities and incorporated in 1909. And they tried desperately to get the Santa Fe to put their division point there, but they didn't. They put it in Slaton, and basically for two reasons. One, it was the midpoint between the 100-mile rule between Sweetwater and then north to Amarillo and northwest to Clovis. So it was better located geographically for their needs to have a stop there. And I think equally, they had learned as land developers that they could control their destiny if they created their own town. They made a lot of money off the lots they sold. They didn't have to worry about an existing town's desires about where the train was going to come through their town, and have to, even though existing cities all wanted the trains to stop there to go through their city because it guaranteed growth. But I think as much as anything, it was the two points that they could make money as land developers, as well as it was just better situated for their needs for intermediate, regular stops. Here's a photo I love of one of the earliest photos of the Slaton Depot. I mentioned earlier it was about 200 jobs that came to Slaton. They had the roundhouse, of course, a depot, a Harvey House, a reading room, which was, for those of you who may not know, that was a place where the Santa Fe would created for their men to be able to stay when they were, had gotten off of a trip at Slaton and were waiting for a return trip to either to Sweetwater or Clovis or Amarillo, wherever they were based. They created these reading rooms as places for the men to have they had a library there, a pool table, things where the men could recreate, and they wouldn't necessarily, be wandering off to find bars and whorehouses and other things while they were spending the night and waiting to go back home. So it was a great opportunity for Slaton. Now everything is gone except the Harvey House. This is the classic photo of Fred Harvey, who created the chain of restaurants along the Santa Fe Railway. He actually pitched his idea to every major American railroad more than once before he finally got the Santa Fe to buy into the process. And then after the other railroads saw the success it created, they also created something similar. These were the locations where Harvey houses were along the Santa Fe lines. Each one of these black dots represents a Harvey house. There were about 80 of them originally. At their height. They eventually expanded into bus lines as well as airports and airport locations, because they could see, what was coming with the end of their viability on the railroads as the automobile and planes developed. The Harvey Company also developed and tried to stay ahead of America's changing transportation needs. Here are the locations in Texas. There were 18 of them. total. There are only 6 remaining. Slaton, which is the only one. Slaton was not they also built hotels. There was a big hotel in Temple, which is gone. But Slaton did not have a hotel, but the Harvey girls, the staff, lived upstairs. And we've created those into bed and breakfast rooms so that this is the only Harvey House in Texas where you can actually spend the night. But of these 18, only 6 remain. Amarillo remains. It's currently not being used. It had gone to private hands for a while and now is owned by the city again, and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. Slaton is owned by a nonprofit. El Paso is a part of now where the Amtrak, the old depot is, Union Station is, where Amtrak now runs. The Brownwood Harvey House remains. The Temple Harvey House remains. The Houston Harvey House and Depot is now part of Minute Maid Park, where the Astros play. The Dallas, of course, their Union Station was where Harvey House was. So other than that, the rest of them are gone. And Slaton was incredibly lucky not that theirs was not done. I would pitch this little book if you find it. We sell it at the Harvey House in Slaton. A great book of the story of the Harvey houses in Texas. This is what our Harvey House looked like when it was built. This is actually one of the things that Fred Harvey was famous for were their postcards that they sold in their gift shops. So Diner would the conductor would go through the train a couple of hours before it would get to the next Harvey House and say, here's a menu, if you want to select what you want, and they dropped everybody's order off at the stop a couple of hours before they got to Slaton. They telegraphed the orders ahead, and when the train rolled in, they had 20 minutes to get off, go in the Harvey House, eat, buy a postcard and a cigar and a gift, and get back on the train. And they could do that because they were, they ordered ahead, and it was all ready when they got there. When I tell young people today about it, I said, it's kind of full circle. That's what you do now. You order ahead, go pick it up. Fred Harvey was doing that in 1876. This is an early inside view of the Harvey House. We had a horseshoe-shaped lunch counter that you can kind of see going around back there, and note the newsstand in the back. I'll show you how we've recreated that newsstand now. But the big silver coffee and water urns were in the middle. The Harvey girls in their traditional dress were getting ready for the next batch of passengers that came through. You actually see the manager over here in the back leaning over his old roll-top desk. It was the Harvey House in its heyday in the 20s. The Slaton Harvey House was open for 30 years, opened in 1912, closed in 1942. And this was most likely, people coming to meet a train and people getting on, people getting off, and with the Harvey House in the background. The Harvey girls, when they didn't have anything else to do, were often seen photographed hanging around or put together for photograph. We see these from almost every Harvey House in the country. And you gotta think about it. In 1912, Slaton was just getting started, and they bring in these attractive women from Midwestern cities who are highly trained to serve, and they're educated, and in a town with mostly men trying to build a town from the ground up, they were quite an attraction for the local folks to come in who could afford a 50 or 75-cent meal, and they could eat at the Harvey houses. It wasn't just for train passengers, but that's what their purpose was for. After the Harvey House closed in 42, it briefly reopened during World War II as part of Fred Harvey's patriotic war effort to support the war. And he reopened his Harvey houses to feed the troop trains as they come through. You can see a kind of a cool photo there of young men heading east or west going to war. This was one of my favorite photographs was the first diesel to come through Slaton. Looked like they turned out school, a nearby school kids to come see it. And this was when I grew up in Slaton. Ironically, I was born in 52 after the Harvey House had closed. And my dad was a conductor, a Sante Fe conductor. And I spent a lot of time in this old building. It was the passenger and freight depot after the Harvey House closed. And so I never knew about its prior history as a Harvey House until I moved back to Slaton in 1990. But I grew up riding these old war bonnets to Dallas or Houston, and they were magical memories for me. When this was what the Harvey House looked like when we acquired it. A group of local citizens had been trying to talk to the Sante Fe about buying this building because everything else had been torn down. The wood depot had gone, the reading room was gone, the roundhouse, all the other everything's gone. This was the only building that was left, and it had been after the freight depot had been moved into a little metal building just to the west of this, to your left. They boarded this up, and the railroad union used it for their meetings, but basically it had been abandoned, and the pigeons were living in it, and old files were strewn around. And one day, a wrecking crew showed up to tear it down, even though Slaton had been trying to buy it. And they contacted a local plumber to make sure that there was no gas and water still connected to it before they knocked it down, because they didn't want to be an explosion, obviously. And he happened to know that the city was interested in buying it, so he contacted the mayor and the chairperson, the chairwoman of the Slaton Museum Association, and they both jumped in their cars and ran down there. And the mayor started talking to the crew chief, and the retired teacher who ran the museum association stood in front of the bulldozer and said, you're not going to tear this down. And so he made a call. The crew chief made a call, talked to the mayor, reached an agreement in principle, and sent the crew on to the next town. That's how close we were to losing this iconic structure. So that's what we started with. That's kind of what we faced inside. It was built very solidly, with foot-thick concrete walls and floors, and but had just 10 years of broken windows and vagrants and pigeons. It was in really sad shape, leaking down the walls. But through incredible work by the community with some grants totaling now over $2 million, we were able to save it and restore it. This is a rare trackside photo. The BNSF, as you all know, frowns upon trespassers just almost as much as the Comanche Indians did. So we sent a drone over in their property and took some shots. And you can see over in the right-hand side a historic caboose that we have also on display. I'll show you more about that in just a moment. There's a cool night shot of it. the tower, that BNSF communications tower you see in the background, is where their little metal building is, where they have their local crew in and out of. They're no longer a crew change point. Now Lubbock is their crew change point. So the BNSF footprint in Slaton is just about gone. They do still use their siding rails there. They store cars there and put them together and move them to hook them onto trains. But basically, that's it. They have one crew, working with an engine to move cars around. But other than that, that's it. We are a recorded Texas Historic Landmark in 2007. Remember, I pointed out that gift shop photo, black and white photo earlier. We have recreated that in the main room. We have recreated the stained glass windows. There was one still in there that we could model to reproduce the same stained glass style in the rest of them. A few shots of our displays that we have of the Harvey Girl uniform, the china that they use. I mean, it was amazing. This is reproduction china here, but those are original Fred Harvey silverware. And you can imagine again, 1912, 1913, a cowboy, a rancher, a farmer, whatever, you walk in and you're served on this incredible, china with real silver and incredible food. It was just like an oasis in the middle of the desert.
Tony, is that china hand painted as well?
Is the what?
Is the china, is that hand painted design?
No.
Okay.
I can't speak to how it was created.
Okay.
I mean, it was pretty uniform. I doubt it was hand painted, but some of them probably were.
That was some of their Membrano china, wasn't it?
Yes, that was the Membrano pattern, which was used in New Mexico and Arizona.
Yeah, particularly on the Super Chief.
There's the Coors Pottery in Tucson, Arizona company has restarted remaking this Membrano pattern. Really beautifully done. This is a picture of a meal that we were serving, a breakfast that we were serving to an overnight guest. So we try to give them a really high quality breakfast, not the kind of, the usual continental breakfast that you get at most restaurants today. We try to give them a taste of the old Fred Harvey hospitality and quality. That photo here with the Harvey Girl, that's a still from the Hollywood musical the Harvey Girls. It was a musical in the 40s that Judy Garland was the star in. It was a very popular movie and had an Academy Award-winning song. Helped keep the legend of the Harvey houses alive. And these are all Fred Harvey china patterns. And the interesting thing about them, they didn't use the same china everywhere. They used, just like how they built the Sante Fe built the depots to reflect the architecture of the region that they were in. Fred Harvey Company did the same thing with their china. So, not like the cookie cutter stamp chain restaurants of today. This is one of my favorite patterns. This was called the Gold Lion, was used in Chicago. And a detail of the Fred Harvey china. He put his name on everything. For the silverware, of course, it was self-defense. And we tell the story in our building in our museum of not only the Fred Harvey Company, but of the Sante Fe Railway workers. Here's a few photographs of our rooms, our bed and breakfast inn rooms, just to kind of show you how they're appointed in early 1900s style, so people get a sense of the quality that and uniqueness that separates our little bed and breakfast inn from the typical ones that you find along the road. We also have a lot of Native American art and arts and crafts because Fred Harvey, one of the things that he did to attract travelers was to play up the American fascination with the Native American culture. You know, as he got into New Mexico and Arizona, not only did he sell their art and artifacts and crafts in the gift shops, he also had bus tours that would take people into the reservation where they could actually go and see how the Native Americans lived in their reservations and could buy their arts and crafts directly from them. This is a room on our second floor. We have 4 bedrooms upstairs and this common area in the middle, which has a little coffee bar you can see in the background over here, library here of books and artifacts, and a little storybook about how we saved the Harvey House here. And over here to the left is 4-track side windows, so it makes it a great place for train spotting for our guests. And here is another view of from the evening in our trackside patio. Nice place for those cool West Texas evenings with a beverage to sit out and watch the trains go by. In our main room where the restaurant was, we did not replace that. We rebuild that bar. We wanted to leave it flexible so we could use it for events, luncheons, Lions clubs, parties, weddings, things like that. Here you can see it set up for a wedding. And this is the room where the Model Railroad Club will set up its displays when they come this fall. Again, you can see our newsstand in the back there. And another design for a event that we leased the room for. I mentioned that little red caboose earlier. It also arrived to us in bad shape. This was a 1910 era CNS caboose, which was later sold to the Fort Worth and Denver, and was later bought by a Lubbock businessman, and who was acquired by his daughter, who lived in Lake Ransom Canyon, just north of Slaton, and then donated to us. It looked like on the inside as we were going through the restoration process. The businessman used it as a office. He just sat it next to his warehouse in Lubbock, and for many years had turned it into an office, had paneled it over, and and so we had to take it back down to the bare walls and start over. That's what it looks like now. We of course rebranded it as a Atchison, Topeka, and Sante Fe caboose because we're an ATSF location, and gave it the number of 1912 when the Harvey House opened. Sante Fe had cabooses that I thought looked exactly like this, and when I first posted this on our webpage, it didn't take 5 minutes for somebody to say, "Why'd you put ATSF on that Fort Worth and Denver caboose?" So, as you rail fans know you just can't get anything by a knowledgeable eye of a rail fan. The restored inside, that's actually a very old Santa Fe railroad caboose. It was a now I'm blanking out on the company name that they made cabooses for all railroads in America. Beautiful old caboose. We rebuilt the conductor's desk. One of our friends sent us a 1934 Santa Fe calendar. They had beautiful calendars for many years created by artists that they employed to hired to create Native American scenes for their cabooses. I mean, for their calendars and for their. They've got one of the most incredible collections of Native American art scenes in the world in their Chicago and Fort Worth offices in Kansas City. So we try to give kids the experience of what it was like working on the railroad. They can go in there on a hot day or a cold day and see how cold and hot it was working in those old cabooses. And of course, they always like to come gather for a photo outside here. And it's a popular photo spot for cheerleaders and teams and groups to wander by and get the picture made in front of. Here's a scene, a recent gathering of Cub Scouts, boys and girls, that came to the Harvey House for an overnight. And this is one of our board members talking to them. Her name is Mandy Lockaby. She's a BNSF conductor, and she came to talk to them about what it's like working on the road and to press the importance of staying away from tracks. The little girls were pretty wide-eyed to think that they could be a railroader. And then later that night, as the temperatures were plunging down into the teens, they decided they just pitched their tents inside instead of outside, which is what they hoped to do. But they spent the night there in the Harvey House. Had a great time. We really love, one of our missions is to tell the story of the railroad, and we love having school kids here. We recently just completed an exhibit of the Flying Scotsman. Last year, I made the connection with a man who was a college student and came to Slaton when the Flying Scotsman spent a winter there. And he and his buddy worked with the crew, actually followed the crew on its Texas tour in the summer of 1970, and then followed it on back up to the Midwest. They were from Illinois. They followed it all the way back up there, up into Canada, and then went back to school in the fall. And he had hundreds of never before published photographs, and we had an exhibit of them of its time in Slaton and around Texas. And we just completed a 4-month exhibit, and it's now ready to start traveling. You can see some of the photographs in our exhibit here. This display case is full of memorabilia that they sold on the train to help pay for the tour at each of their stops. And so the Mr. Wagner, who lives in Austin, has granted permission for these photographs and this memorabilia to travel. So we'd love it for it to be in every West Texas museum. We have initiated contact with Brownwood. Love for it to be in San Angelo. So if anybody has any ideas or contacts, people that would help us get this moved, it's a very affordable exhibit. About $500 is all we're going to ask to buy some books to sell at the exhibit. It's a very affordable and ready to go exhibit. Have them contact me if they're interested. And another group of 7th grade history teachers, we bring these kids in every year, or their history teachers bring them in every year to learn the history of the Harvey House in Santa Fe. Slaton also has for travelers other cool things to see, like this mural showing the importance of the railroad and the farming and ranching to Slaton, and the Harvey House over here in the lower right-hand corner. Of course, we have the 1809 here rusting away. I'm putting a full court press on the city of Slaton to start setting money aside to get this restored. So, and I'm going to help them write grants to get it restored and to get it covered. So it'll last for another century. Right across the street, we have a nice little Texas German restaurant that's adopted the 1809 name. And of course, the world famous Slaton Bakery is also on the square. Lots of cool stuff to do in Slaton, and to spend the night at Harvey House. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Tony. That was very interesting. Has anybody got any questions that they want to ask Tony about all that?
I'd just like to say that's a beautiful refurbish of that structure. Definitely a labor of love, but how beautiful, how nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. It has been a labor of love.
So in my travels, maybe, we're big fans of historic bed and breakfasts, ballparkish. What do you get for a night?
Well, did you ask me what it costs?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's going to be between 135 and 165 a night on a general night. The tech football game weekends or graduation weekends, we price them higher because they fill up and everybody fills up. But it's a pretty affordable for a quality hot breakfast and a real unique, as people say. You're actually spending the night in a museum, and you are. So
yes, very reasonable.
Try to keep it affordable, and we really make very little money. We make about $50 a night for somebody staying in our hotel in our little bed and breakfast. So it's we want traffic, and we want to make it affordable.
Where can you go to book a night there?
It's SlatonHarveyHouse.com. You can book it online, and it has all of our contact info there if you have any questions. We have 5 rooms, 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and it's a really great place for a small gathering. We have a number of, we have got a choir from Hungary that's staying all week with us this week, who are here for a tech conference at Texas Tech music conference. But one of the professors lives in Slaton and thought this would be a great place. They could all hang together and enjoy some of the history of the region rather than just staying in Lubbock at a Marriott somewhere.
Yeah.
When the structure was first built, did all of the rooms have their own private baths, or is that one of the updates that you did?
That's one of the things we had to compromise to help us survive and generate some revenue. Upstairs, there was a manager suite. There was a husband and wife and daughter. They had a 2-room, 1-bath suite upstairs. And then there were 9 tiny bedrooms with 2 cots in each one, and then 1 group bath for the Harvey girls. So, the little rooms were basically big enough for 2 cots or, single beds, small single beds. So we chose to make them into rooms that today's traveler would like to stop and stay in.
Definitely.
Now downstairs, we kept the big room, the dining room, and the newsstand. We did them the way they looked with very few changes. We recreated the light fixtures, the stained glass so that they really will see what it looked like back in 1912.
Yeah, I was going to ask if those light fixtures were original because looking at that picture that you showed of the bar area or the lunch area, that you could see them hanging there, and they looked very authentic. I thought
They are
very similar.
They were all gone. The light fixtures are reproductions.
Yeah.
Also on the walls, the architect suggested this, and it's a good idea. It showed both the electric and the gas versions of the lights, because originally they were gas operated lights, but later electrified.
Cool. Was there any challenges that you had faced that were really, that were unexpected when you were doing the restoration of it?
Yeah, lots of challenges, especially when you're trying to do plumbing all over a second floor that did not have much plumbing, and very thick walls and concrete walls and floors. So it was very challenging for the engineering of it and the putting it in, and very costly to do. And the ultimate challenge, there was not a lot of wealth in Slaton, that we could tap for to help us, but we were blessed to get a lot of grants, and a big one from the TxDOT through their historic preservation grant. That was the big one that put us on our way. It was a $800,000 grant that we had to match with $200,000, and it took us 5 years to raise $200,000. So it's been a long and difficult struggle. So we're so happy to it's been open now for about 10 years, and if y'all want to, we'd love to have model railroaders come up and fill us up. We've got a world-class model railroad studio in Slaton. I think Brooks used to work, didn't you?
Yeah, and
there are a number of beautiful layouts that the Lubbock Model Railroad Club members have. So there's lots for model railroaders to do. If you want to have a regional convention in Slaton and Lubbock, we would love to be a part of it, and we'll do everything we can to make it affordable and meaningful for your members.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think one of our Division 5 members caught I was thinking of his name.
Bob Bamlock?
Yes, Bob Bamlock. Yeah, I was like, his name slipped my head. Yeah, he owns the model railroad studio there in Slaton, and he actually has the Sante Fe line modeled from Slaton all the way to I think the border of Texas. I want to say, I don't remember what the last town was there.
Yeah, it's those past Post.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's got a beautiful model.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Smaller ones there too. He's acquired, and friends of his have put in there. So it's you can burn a good afternoon in there. Yeah.
And I think he had in a while, but he was telling me that he has a tech, like a club from tech that comes and works on that too. But they haven't been doing much since the COVID shut everything down. So
that set us all back.
Yeah,
we've been blessed. We've been blessed to survive that.
Yeah.
So, Tony, you might have mentioned it before, but how long did that restoration take you?
Well, we acquired the building in '89, and the restoration started. I'm going to miss some dates, but about 2010 to 2012, the first floor was done. And then I should have that right here at my fingertips. I'm sorry. But the second floor was done a few years after that. So, yeah, I'm going to say we've been open and operating for about 12 years now.
So once you put a nail in the wall to when you finished, 5 years?
Well, probably it was a year and a half or so for the first floor in the exterior, and then there was a couple of years after that. Then the second floor was done, and that was about a year-long restoration. So in two different pieces, it was about 4 years.
Gotcha. Nice.
Did you have contractors do most of the work, or do you have any volunteers volunteering for any of that?
There was a little bit of volunteer work and as we knocked out the walls and things, but all of the work was done bid out through the state grant process, the Tech Stock grant process. So it was very heavily, very much heavily controlled and professionally done through guided and bid out and supervised by Tech Stock.
Cool. Do you know of any other Harvey houses? Like you mentioned the ones in Texas, but do you know any others in the U.S. that are either still around and or converted to bed and breakfast or other uses? Or been restored?
There's a great one in Las Vegas, New Mexico. That was a Harvey House and hotel at the time. It's been restored. The same man is doing one in Winslow. I think I don't know exactly where he is. I think he's about halfway through, but he's got it open for rooms overnight. And of course, the Harvey houses on the south rim of the Grand Canyon have continuously operated. They've never closed. They moved to other ownerships, and are now but still operating. So there's lots of good Harvey House experiences that you can get and stay at and eat at. The one in Brownwood, you probably all know this, but it's part of their convention and tourism or Chamber of Commerce, one of the two. The one in Temple is a great museum. While their hotel is closed, their Harvey House has a great museum and with all kinds of programming. I mean, it's a serious museum. Those are the closest and easiest ones to get to. Clovis has not been restored. It's still sitting there, deteriorating. Amarillo, I have hopes that it'll get done soon and be a part of a big downtown effort that they're trying to get businesses and people back downtown. I feel certain that that's going to happen. They tried a bond election a couple of years ago that failed, and so they've kind of had to pause it and retool to find something that the voters would be approval of. But
that one's inside the depot.
Yeah. And the Harvey House is actually on one end of the depot in Amarillo. I'm pretty sure. Is that correct?
That I really don't know.
I believe it is. I think it was all one building. The Harvey House was on one side of it, like the southern third of the building. Been a number of years since I've been there, but it's still in good shape. It was a restaurant for a while, and then a private business used it for offices, and so it's had some work done on it over the years. It will not take as much as ours did to get it back up and running.
Were they typically like standalone structures or ever incorporated?
Typically standalone, but in some cities they were attached into one building or in a string of buildings. Like in Albuquerque, they were, they had a incredible group of building, long building there with depot and offices and Harvey House, and it was all torn down. I mean, Albuquerque, Slaton, we have struggled. Small towns, of course, have a hard time being able to handle the cost of this. We just don't have the commerce and wealth around it to be able to do it. But it's amazing to me. A little town of Slaton, we were able to do it, keep it open and operating 5 days a week now. And there are a number of larger cities that they'll have a museum and it'll only be open on Saturday or Friday and Saturday or something. So we're really proud that we were able to, get something going and keep it going, and knock on wood, every year is a new challenge.
Yeah.
So you had said that the railroads were first reluctant to have these Harvey houses. In the very beginning, were they the standalone structures, and then as the railroad said, wow, what a great idea, they started incorporating them into the terminals, or was it a little bit of this, a little bit of that?
I can't speak to that knowledgeably, but my guess is that there were a lot of factors that went in, like how much land they had to put it together, because they did many cases go into a city that was already existing. In those cases, they had less land to work with than they did when they just, created their own town. In the larger cities, of course, they were part of a union station with multiple railroads. And so that was a whole different type of operation for the Harvey House, where they would operate in a corner or a space within the union stations, like Chicago or Dallas, Kansas City. It's a beautiful restored union station in Kansas City. It's wonderful.
And catering to the railroad, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob.
No, what I was going to say is, from what I've read, the reason Sante Fe got into it was early in 1876. They'd run a special train into Colorado that got stranded in a blizzard, and they ran out of food and everyone was miserable and stuff. And that's what really opened up the door for Fred Harvey. And my understanding, he was working as a telegrapher for the Burlington at the time, but people knew that he wanted to be in the restaurant business from his previous experience, but they told him to approach the Sante Fe. He did, and they decided to let him experiment. Apparently they had a lunch counter in their Topeka depot at the time. He went in there, cleaned the place up, and changed the menus and changed the whole concept. And all of a sudden, that thing took off, which shocked the Sante Fe that it took off the way it did. And so my understanding was Sante Fe looked at that and said, hey, would you go and open a restaurant? I don't remember if it was the restaurant and hotel or what, but they asked him if he would go and do it at Florence, which was 100 miles down the line. Right. And he went and did that, and then it came out successful. And see, that's where
I'd heard pieces of that story. I'd not heard the one about the stranded train, that would surprise me. And stranded, and it could be stranded for a number of reasons, not only snow, but it certainly did give the Sante Fe a quick boost in tourism travel because of the great fascination with Native American culture and the romance of the Grand Canyon, and they were marketing geniuses in the way that they put it together, and it poured. The people from the Midwest and Northeast poured onto those trains and went out to see the great Southwest and go see California and every place in between. It was a great boost to the Sante Fe's revenues and certainly to their image.
And they would provide meal service 24 hours a day, depending on when the train was coming through?
They did. Slaton at that time had 4 trains a day. 2 in the daytime and 2 at night, but they served around the clock. The Harvey girls worked 12-hour shifts.
So they were the original Waffle House.
They were.
From what I've been told or heard, they were also kind of the original fast food.
Yeah, America's first fast food chain.
Yeah, because I was chasing parts and pieces of the story myself some time back, and part of the deal was they would say a train would pull into the station and people had 30 minutes to try and get a meal. And so they'd rush into the local diners and, you know, they didn't have food prepared for a crowd or anything and be starting to cook it up. They might be just serving it just as the train whistle's going for people to get back on board.
Yeah.
And food quality was poor and a lot of people got sick from the food.
And there were shysters that were operating that never intended to get the food ready. They just slow walk it until they had to leave, and you know they'd have lost their money and they got no food. So that was not good for business for the Santa Fe or any railroad.
Yeah, any railroad.
Yep.
I'm just curious. You had a map, the land grant or the Texas land in your presentation. Where did you get that map from?
Just Google Homestead Act and go to the images and that map will show up.
Okay. I'll have to look for that. It's just I've kind of put together a presentation that I take to schools and try and show off some things. And, you know, I have one for, federal land grants, but the federal government didn't grant any land in the state of Texas. That was granted by the state.
So Texas Homestead Act would be the best Google search.
I'll have to look for that.
And if you have any trouble, you can. Brooks has my contact info. He can give it to you, and you can contact me directly, and I will send you a copy of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to do it.
Well, I appreciate you presenting that for us, Tony, and I find it fascinating, the whole story of the Harvey House and how entrepreneur came to meet a need of the railroad, and it fully survived on the railroad, and how a partnership was formed with that. So I think that's really neat, and I hope to find more stories like that, and research in railroad history and things. So
that book that Tony showed about the Harvey House girls, I've actually got a copy of that. It is a good read. It really is. It's worth finding.
Cool. Well, with that, I'm going to end we'll stop the recording, but I'm going to keep the meeting going here so we can just sit and chit chat offline here. So I want to thank everybody for coming, and then tune in July, I think 20th. It's in the weekly email if I got the date wrong, but our clinician from May is going to be presenting again, or well, not again, but he's going to be, I've got him rescheduled for May. So it's Greg McComas is presenting on his Michigan Interstate bedroom layout, giving us a layout tour, and maybe he can give us some juicy insights on the railroad too, because he's a real life railroader as well. So works for the BNSF. So anyway, hope to see everybody around. Thanks for coming.